Reimagining Success, Episode 35. You're listening to Reimagining Success, the podcast where we help you reimagine your future, designing a life and career beyond the 9 to 5 that allows you the freedom, flexibility and fulfillment that you've been dreaming of. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg. Now, let's get started on those dreams. Hello there and welcome back as we continue to explore the reasons why you might not leave your corporate job to set up on your own, assuming that you want to, of course. So last week we looked at the fear of failure. So if you haven't listened to that episode, then do go back and have a listen to that one. We broke down the fear of failure, how that could mean making the wrong career choice, ruining your career prospects forever, not earning enough money, not getting enough clients and so on, so really failing in the business itself and being judged by other people, so having a really public failure. But although the fear of failure, I think, is really one of the biggest fears that you might experience, the scary stuff doesn't end there, I'm afraid. So I thought this week we'd explore 3 more fears that might be holding you back from leaving your corporate job to set up on your own, and why you shouldn't let them hold you back. So the 3 fears are the fear of starting from scratch, the fear that the grass won't actually be greener, and the fear of having to work even harder than you were in your corporate job. So let's take each of those in turn. The first one is the fear of starting from scratch. Now, you've been in your corporate role for many years, maybe even your entire career to date. I certainly, started in a corporate job and that was all I'd known really when I quit in 2013. And you know exactly how it works because of that. You have extensive experience of the job, the sector, and because of that, you also have the respect of your managers and your peers. You're operating within that comfort zone that I'm always talking about, where you really understand the environment and you know how to do a good job. And leaving this comfort behind to start something different feels like you're turning your back on all of that experience and respect and starting from scratch. But I always find it really ironic that if you think back to when you really were starting from a blank slate as a new graduate, that was actually the time in your career when you had the most confidence. Have a think about it. So the arrogance with which you left university and applied to prestigious jobs when you literally had no experience, zero experience, almost zero skills, is in pretty stark contrast to the insecurities that you're now experiencing when trying to do the same 10 to 15 years later. And the truth is that you really aren't starting from scratch because, yes, there are big differences between running your own business and being an employee. And yes, there is a lot to learn. But that doesn't mean that you're drawing a line through all of that time in a big corporation. You have a host of transferable skills, both hard skills and soft skills, that you're bringing to the table and that are very much still relevant in this new world. Now, you may well be contemplating starting a business in a completely different area than one you've been working in. So you might have been working in a very corporate job, corporate PR, corporate marketing, finance, and so on. And maybe you're looking at becoming a yoga instructor, a photographer, or a coach, or a writer. And if that's the case, of course, the learning curve is going to be particularly steep. And you'll have to work especially hard at developing new skills, as well as building both a network and a reputation in this new area. And let's be honest, that is going to take time and hard work. One way, though, to make the transition smoother is to take it step by step. Because, for example, I didn't quit my marketing job in 2013 to become a coach and a writer. And instead, I started by using my skills and experience from my corporate job in a freelance and consulting capacity. So I was very much leveraging the background that I had and not, completely turning my back on that and trying to do something completely different right away. And it was only over time that I then trained and certified to be a coach. And I had more and more writing published, evolving my business really to what it is today, and I guess what you know me as. So you can take smaller steps in the right direction, and the change isn't going to be as extreme. It will take longer, yes, but you're going to build a stronger and more sustainable foundation for the future. Now, the second one is the fear that the grass won't actually be greener. And there may be a number of things that you don't like about the corporate world and that are pushing you to want to leave and do your own thing. Maybe, let's just guess here, that you dislike office politics, the endless emails and soul-destroying meetings that are always wasting your time, the pressure from other people, from your boss, from colleagues who want you to do more, that never-ending to-do list, working late into the night, being always on and so on. Now, it is easy to fantasize about life outside of that world. So a life in which you're making your own decisions, you only do work that you enjoy, you're setting your own goals and expectations. They have that cliche that I'm always talking about, that working, with one hand on your laptop, one hand on a pina colada on the beach in Bali or Thailand or wherever it is. But what if that really is just a fantasy, and probably that particular image is a bit of an unrealistic goal? And the things that you hate about corporate work actually exist in the entrepreneurial world as well. And on top of that, what if there are other downsides to working for yourself that you haven't had to deal with in your full-time job? So you're actually making a massive effort to leave behind this corporate job that you think, for many reasons you don't enjoy. And then you're just recreating that beast outside. You're just jumping from the fire into the frying pan. Is that the expression? Out of the frying pan into the fire, I think is the right one. So look, the grass does always seem greener, of course, when you're looking onto the other side, because you haven't yet experienced the day-to-day of what it really entails. Let's throw in another metaphor there: better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Because, of course, once you do get a closer look, you are going to get a more realistic understanding of what it entails. Look, working for yourself, you are still going to have to deal with difficult clients, customers, and suppliers. You will still have to answer emails, most likely, and probably attend some meetings at least now and then. And to make matters worse, you're going to be all alone and without the infrastructure and team that you actually have now in a large established company. You have the sales, the PR, and HR and so on to help you out. You have bosses and managers who can advise you. You have admin assistants and finance and all these things. But the best thing about running your own business is exactly that. You are running your own business. You're running the show. And that means that you're the one who's setting your expectations. You have no boss who's deciding your work plan. You can choose which clients, customers, and suppliers you're going to work with and say no to the ones that are problematic. And you can decide how you want to work. So, for example, you could make the decision to work 100% virtually and from home and avoid all of those meetings that you so dislike. Also, working for yourself doesn't have to mean working by yourself. You could consider hiring a virtual assistant or a team of freelancers to do the work you dislike, and check out the episode a few episodes ago when we were talking about outsourcing, which is something that can be really helpful even if you consider yourself to be just a freelancer yourself or a solopreneur. You can partner with a co-founder, so you don't have to start the business all alone, or you can even build a team of your own and set the expectations and culture for the organization yourself. So you are shaping your own business model. And although there will always be some aspects, there will always be some pieces that you don't particularly love, especially, of course, when you're just starting out. But you will have far more control and freedom to design how you want to work in your own business and avoid the things that you want to avoid. Oh, and by the way, as we said last week, if you really don't enjoy it, if you find that you know what the grass isn't greener and you long to go back to your old corporate job, there's nothing really stopping you, I guess, from choosing to apply to another full-time job. So don't burn the bridges when you leave. Try to explore, learn, see if you do enjoy this whole new world, and don't, necessarily take that leap and rip your previous experience to shreds, shouting at your boss and so on. I always say that with a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but, don't necessarily burn your bridges, because you may well decide that it's not for you, and that's perfectly fine. Finally, number 3, the fear of having to work even harder. Now, one of the reasons why you want to leave the corporate 9 to 5 is probably that you want more flexibility, less stress, and so on. So maybe you dream of spending more time with your family. And of course, we looked at why running your own business is the best thing to get the freedom and flexibility you need to have a young family. Having the opportunity to do more things that you love outside of the office, maybe doing more traveling or finally writing that book that you've always dreamed of. But although a full-time job can be stressful, it's also a world that's both comfortable and predictable. Again, you've been in this world for years. You're operating within that comfort zone where you know what you're doing, and your boss and your peers know and respect you. And as someone put it to me recently, you can coast and still get paid because you have a team you can rely on. You can have sort of some downtime and know that, I'm still going to get that salary, and I'll come back and do a bit more work, next week. This week I'm not doing so much and I'll still get the salary. So won't running your own business mean more work than ever before? Well, it is true that the first months and even years of running your own business are going to be hard work, and you definitely can't expect to coast and rely on other team members because there are no other team members to pick up the slack when it is just you. And if you do try to coast or, just take your foot off the pedal, then there will definitely be a negative impact on your business results, especially at the beginning when you haven't built up the momentum and the team and so on. It's also true that you may have colleagues who left their job but have since given up. You may know people who have gone back to a full-time job when it didn't work out as they'd hoped. But that's not to say that the image of the so-called hustling entrepreneur who never sleeps and has no personal life is the reality. It doesn't have to be your reality. So first of all, you are the one who decides how hard you work, and no one can make you work harder. You may now say, look, you're oversimplifying things, Anna. I'm going to be forced to work hard because I have to make enough money. But again, you are choosing the business model, and it's up to you to make strategic decisions that will create a sustainable business that's based on the parameters that work for you. So how much do you want to work? How much do you want to make? And so on. So you're choosing what your income goals are, within what time frame you want to achieve those goals. And therefore, if you prefer, you can actually set less ambitious goals in the short term. You can start your business as a so-called side hustle alongside your existing job so that you don't have that immediate pressure to replace your full salary right away. And of course, you'll need to accept then that the pace will be slower and the whole process will take longer. But it doesn't mean that you won't have to work as hard. You can do a few hours a week, 5 hours, 10 hours, whatever you have, and not necessarily give up all your spare time. Now, I'm not going to tell you that starting and running your own business is easy. Definitely not. And if that's your expectation, to be honest, as you consider leaving your job to set up your own, then probably you need to adjust your expectations and it may not be the right path for you. But the magic of designing your own business and your whole working life, of reimagining success, which of course is the whole point of this podcast, is that you're choosing work that is both enjoyable and fulfilling for you, and that even if you're working harder on paper, in theory, you'll actually find that you have a renewed sense of energy and enthusiasm that will make you feel like you're not working harder. So it might seem like, oh my goodness, how could I possibly add this new thing to my already very full, overflowing plate? But you may well find that you'll be leaping out of bed with new energy in the morning, excited to work on this passion project that you have, something that you know is going to create an escape plan for you, allow you to have more time with your family and loved ones and so on. So again, interestingly, even though on paper it looks like more work, the whole point of finding your ikigai that I've talked about before as well, so finding work that leverages your skills, is work that you enjoy, makes a meaningful contribution in the world and gives you money, because that's important for a business and career. The whole point of that is that it will give you new energy, enthusiasm, motivation and so on. So it won't feel like it's harder work. Now, of course, having said all this, I do not expect that this sort of 10 to 15 minute podcast episode is going to remove all your fears altogether. And as I always say, scary does tend to come along for the ride with exciting. And to be honest, I'd even say that that's the whole point. I'm a big fan of getting out of your comfort zone. My whole business is called One Step Outside. So everything you've ever wanted is one step outside your comfort zone. I'm all about learning and growing. So you're choosing to step out of that zone to challenge yourself and to inject a whole new dynamic into your career. You could choose to stay in your comfort zone. You could choose to stay on this side of the fence, to not risk having to work harder or starting from scratch and all these things we're talking about today. But you're now choosing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're choosing to step out of that comfort zone and to actually, again, embrace the scary along with the exciting. But to reassure you, we will continue to explore how to make this whole rollercoaster ride more comfortable in the coming weeks. So fear not, haha. We will continue to break down these fears, look at how you can really address those, face them head on, build your confidence, and most of all, build a working plan that's going to help you to escape the 9 to 5 once and for all, and to reimagine success in your business and in your life. I'd love to hear from you if there are other fears that are getting in the way of your move out of the 9 to 5. In fact, these fears today came from someone who contacted me who wanted to add some different perspective to what I was sharing previously. So if ever you want to share anything with me, anonymously, confidentially is fine, or if you want to be called out on the podcast as well, then do let me know. I'd love to hear from you. You can email at podcast@onestepoutside.com. That's podcast@onestepoutside.com. So again, just to recap these fears, in addition to the fear of failure we talked about last week, the fear of starting from scratch, the fear that the grass won't actually be greener, and the fear of having to work even harder. So you may want to go back and listen again if you think that you can really relate to some of these and you want to really question them. Have another listen, see if I can persuade you a little bit that maybe it's not as scary as it seems. And again, we will continue, of course, to explore these fears and how to build your confidence, get back to maybe where you were a little bit back in your new graduate days when you had that confidence and conviction that you would succeed. So I'd love to help you bring back some of that confidence and again, help you reimagine success in your career and business. So thank you so much for listening. Hope that was interesting and not too scary as we continue to explore these fears. And I look forward to seeing you back here next week. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Reimagining Success with Anna Lundberg. If you're looking for support and encouragement as you begin to reimagine success in your life, then come on over and join us in the One Step Outside Facebook group. You'll find like-minded people who will cheer you on, as well as free training sessions and lots more. To join, visit onestepoutside.com/community or just search for One Step Outside on Facebook. I'll see you over there.